The purpose of today's demonstration is to watch Foglight monitoring a SharePoint environment. So what I did to start off is I logged into our Foglight management server as the user Jay Spurko, and you can see currently that I have SharePoint selected. Now as I change my selector here to these different applications, you'll see all three of these panels changing. So the map changes to indicate the different locations that were being represented for the application. The bottom right-hand corner, the tier changes according to the application. And then also the user interactions change. So the right-hand side, if I drill down to these different locations, what I'll be able to see are the SharePoint users coming in from the different locations that I've configured. And also I'll be able to see the different data centers. And these are the data centers hosting the application infrastructure. Now, if there's a problem on any of these, they will turn that color and we'll be able to click on it and see what the alert is. Right now, in a green light fashion, I can just click on it and I can see that I'm monitoring a web tier component from Aliso Viejo, and I'm also monitoring the SharePoint application requests coming in from Aliso Viejo from end users. And then, of course, you can see the health history here, and I'm set up right now to the last 4 hours. Just zoom in on that a little bit and change this to the last hour. And that'll give you an idea of the health history over time. So what I can do is I can also drill into the tier and see specifically what I'm monitoring. So if there's an alert, I would typically click on the alert and it would show me the alert text in this window. But currently I don't have an alert, so we'll just have an idea of what that would look like had there been an alert. Now, in order to see the assets that I'm monitoring in this web tier component, I can click on the web, and you can see I'm monitoring one host. And if you go just a step deeper, you can actually see the different assets for that host that are being monitored. So everything from the CPU to the system table to the I/O and the memory. So basically, operating system level information that we get on SharePoint. Now, what you can see also to the left of the tiers, we can tell you if there's a problem in a tier, and then we can tell you which users are being impacted. So if I have multiple web servers, I can see if the site is being, the users interacting with it are being impacted on that specific site. So if I drill into one of the user interactions, I get a different level of detail. Now, instead of monitoring like we're monitoring here, operating level statistics, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill in here, and instead we're going to look at the actual requests that are coming in from end users. Now at this point, at 3:25, I had 19 users connecting to the, now I'm zoomed in just to one site, right? So right now I'm looking at team.prod.quest.corp, and there were 19 users that accessed a total of 35 pages across the 19 users. And their average response time on the network was 0.2 seconds, and on the back end was 0.26 seconds. Now what I can also do is I can cursor over these as you just saw, and that'll give me the response time over time. And a couple different drill-ins here. I can drill into the operational level, and this will show me that I did fall down here. So my current OLA attainment is 100%, but around this time, during the day, I did fall below. I went down to a 67% attainment. And what that means is that only, 67% of my pages responded in less than a second. So the other 33% took more than 1 second. That's basically what this line is. And my SLA is set to say that 95% of my pages must respond in less than 1 second from the back end. So that means once it hits the web server, that web server has 1 second to turn that page around for 90% of my requests. And what I could do here is if this does go out, like in this case, we had a violation, I can come down here and I can see how bad the violation was. So at that point in time, if I just cursor over this, I can see the response time went up to, the average was still 759 milliseconds. So the average was okay, even though there were an exceptional number of pages that were over 1 second. And this shows me the load. So this way I can see a lot of times when the response times go out, you'll be able to see that based on the load that's coming in. So if the load gets real high and then the response time gets slower, maybe it's a factor of the load and not a problem with the back-end systems. Now, if I want to get more specific here, what I can do is I can drill down on these lines, and especially these lines will turn red if there's a problem. And when you drill down on the lines, what it'll do is it'll show you the top request in terms of performance. So these are millisecond performance, and I'm looking at very specific from 1520 to 1525. And what I can do is I can broaden this time period, and I can do a lot of analysis in here on these pages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at a time range, and actually a time period, and I'm going to look at a daily aggregate of the pages. So this will show me this page right here, this case, subcase, EVCR page. This is my worst performing page on this site right now, and you can see the processing time. I could also switch that if I wanted to see the end-to-end time. So that includes the processing time and the network time. And then if you want to, you can get more details on a specific page by drilling into just that one page. And what it will show you is over time what the performance of that page was. So let me broaden it up a little bit more to see if we have some history on it. So I'll go for the last 4 weeks. Okay, so I can see performance of that page. It is getting a little bit worse, so it's something I may want to look at. That's basically a page level diagnostic. There's just a wealth of information on each of these different pages. And if you drill down to the page, if you go to all metrics, for that one specific page, we have just a ton of metrics. So I could see, let's change our time range up here to the last, instead of the week, I'm going to go a month. And I could see, let's see, so we got 23 executions of this page. I can see that of those 23 executions, 15 of them were over 1 second in terms of processing. And you can see that where they land in terms of their distribution. So most of the time, it's less than 2 seconds. But about 6 times, it was between 4 and 8 seconds in response time. Okay, so let's go back, and we're about done here. Let's take a look at this team again. I'm going to drill in. And then what I want to do, instead of looking, I'm just going to change this back to our hour interval so we have a good sample period. Instead of looking at the aggregate performance, like what I just did is I took you through a drill-in where I drilled into the page. I showed you which pages were the slowest overall. And then I showed you how they were based on aggregates over time, so we were able to see baselines and stuff. Now, what this one's indicating, this is a very different metric. So it's showing me the overall requests for my team.prod.quest.corp SharePoint site. And this is actually showing me individual requests that took longer than 10 seconds. So these are those individual users that are having problems. What I can do here is I can drill on those individual user requests, and it'll look up in our performance database. It's going to look for those specific requests and show you what happened. So here, this is one page where we had a request, and the request took 45 seconds to respond. Okay, so 45 seconds overall. What I can do is I can drill on this, and we actually have a record for this individual request so that I can drill in and see that at the hit level. So the hit information will give you all of this. So it'll tell you the client IP, it'll tell you the method type, give you the full URL, and then if I click on the response, it will tell me how long it took to respond on, or actually this is the response header. And the timings will tell you how long it took from end to end and how long it took on the processing side. So in this case, there was a lot of time spent on the client side. So the client having to render that took more than the back-end processing. The back-end processing time was still actually less significant. It was only 1.6 seconds on the back-end. So this is a pretty easy case where you can tell that it's something with the desktop or with the network, and it's not on the back-end. On this specific hit. So if I click on the user session, this will take me into all the information I have for that user, show me different information, and then I can actually see, okay, on the timeline, I can drill into the timeline and I can see the overall processing time for each of the hits within the session. In this case, it looks like it was a session that wasn't validated yet, and it would show me the client time versus the processing time on the back end. That's it for today's demo. Thank you for attending.